This is the continuation of our in-depth training on the Yoga Sutras of Pantanjali. From Book 1, Sutra 6, Sutras are sayings. I've titled this sutra Mind Modifications, and this is a comparative study course by Dr. Lisa Love using 3 books on the Yoga Sutras of Pantanjali, one by B.K.S. Iyengar, one by Swami Satchidananda, and one by Alice Bailey. So here we are introduced to the 5 mind modifications that potentially cause us to forget the self we are. They block union or yoga with the capacity to see or realize that self. So becoming aware of the modifications of the mind are very important. Now, the first one, correct knowledge or right knowledge, is the only mind modification that acts as a doorway to remembering who we are, because it helps us have accurate perception of the real. So that is the one that we want to cultivate with the mind, is correct knowledge or right knowledge, or you could even say it's correct perception. But the other 4 are things that we have to learn to understand that the mind does, that we have to move through or beyond in order to not forget the self that we are. The first mind modification is incorrect knowledge, also called illusion and misperception by our various authors. And here the mind does not see things as they truly are. This is known as illusion by both Iyengar and Alice Bailey. And Alice Bailey, in her book Glamour or World Problems, speaks a lot about various kinds of illusion. Then we have verbal delusion, also known as delusion or fancy. And in the Bailey teachings, this is also known as glamour. Why? Because the mind is distorted by fanciful imaginings. And as we go down through these 5 stages, we're actually distorting the mind more and more. So verbal delusion is more of a distortion than incorrect knowledge. Then there is sleep. And these are the various ways we go to sleep in terms of remembering who we really are as the self. And that can either happen in the process of going to sleep at night, or basically sleepwalking, so to speak, through the day by forgetting who we really are. And then there's memories distracting us from the present moment and the eternal now, both memories that keep us too tied to the past and its unhealthy, traumatic distortions that keep us locked in believing we are the false self, the ego, instead of the true self. And it can be memories of the future that also keep us from truly being aware of who we really are. The sutras that follow, Sutra 6, talk about these at great length, so we will be going into them in much more depth, but get a sense of them for now. And as I said, in the next 5 sutras, we will explore each of these 5 mind modifications in greater detail. But as you're beginning to understand, yoga in its truest sense involves a great deal of mental training. Now, yoga is so popular out there now, especially in terms of the hatha yoga, the body yoga, the asanas, the postures that we get into, that the more rigorous side of yoga, as the mental training, is not something that people are as willing to become involved in. As Book 1, Sutra 2 emphasized so much, we can only learn to be truly in union or yoga with the self as we master the mind. This requires learning to meditate in a way that brings silence to the mind, and that is the way that we achieve samadhi. And it requires learning to perceive reality correctly by questioning our thoughts, perceptions, and assumptions to clear up incorrect knowledge or illusion, by removing emotional reactions and ego attachments that lead us into verbal delusion and fancy, remembering who we are as the self at all times, even during sleep. There are practices known as continuity of consciousness that help us remember who we are as we move in and out of sleep. Working with memories so that you are freed from memories that engage drama, trauma, and attach you to the past through pain or keep you stuck in attachment to the good old days. So here I am becoming more specific about how these mind modifications can trap us. So now we're going to look at some commentary by Swami Satchidananda. And he says simply, quote, "Here Patanjali names the 5 types of vitris and explains these one after the other. These vitris are the 5 kinds of mental modifications or mind states mentioned first in Sutra 5. It says in Sutra 5 simply that there are 5. Sutra 6 explains what they are." And Iyengar says, in addition to the 5 types of mind modifications listed above, which will be explored more in depth and in the sutras that follow this one, he mentions 5 types of intelligence, ranging from ignorant to controlled, that I am not listing here. So please get the book and look at his commentary on this if you want to know what those 5 types of intelligence are. And he also begins to provide more detailed information regarding the 5 mind modifications. But since the next 5 sutras basically detail them as well, I am choosing to expand upon Iyengar's commentary on them only in the next 5 sutras. Then Alice Bailey says that, again, in the following sutras after this one, she expands upon these 5 modifications, but here she already starts the commentary on what is correct knowledge, calling it also pure knowledge or gnosis. And she shares that there are 3 main ways of knowing in her commentary on Sutra 6. Correct knowledge or knowing is through direct cognition through the senses. Those are the 5 senses that we have in our body. Or 2, deduction using the reasoning powers of the mind. Or 3, the direct cognition of the yogi or seer, which comes through the, quote, right use of the mind as an organ of vision and transmission. And that's important because a lot of the training in various books by Bailey and in books on yoga, having to do more with Raja Yoga and Jnana Yoga, is really training the mind to be an organ of correct vision and also transmission. It can both see, receive, and send. So this was a short commentary because we're going to get much more in depth in sutras to come, but there is, as with all of my commentaries on these sutras, a meditation. This one is known as Mind Modifications, and you're encouraged to find that video and practice it daily for 1 week during your study of this sutra. Again, if you're working with us together instead of by yourself, please get the copies of the 3 books. Even if you're working by yourself, get the copies of the 3 books and read what each author has to say. I am condensing it a lot for the sake of this video. Get your own impressions so you have a more complete understanding. Attempt to work with only 1 sutra a week. Follow the meditations many times during the week. Remember, it's about practice, not just study. And if you're working directly with me, I encourage your questions, comments, and experiences. Learn more about me and how to reach me in the remainder of this video.